Analyzing life.
Considering the answers.
Lens of Hopefulness with John Passadino.
With guest
psychotherapist Shannon Petrovich.
Welcome, Shannon, to Lens of Hopefulness.
Thanks so much, John. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I've gone over so much of your material, and I have to say the big word that keeps jumping out is narcissist. It's become such a big word today, all over social media, all over newspapers, and it's not just because of a particular person. It's been a word that's been bandied about. I'll give you an example, and that is that I was seeing a hygienist a few years ago that left her office because she would whisper to me, "They're all narcissists here. I have to get out of here." I'm like, wait a second. How could every single, but there's like 3 dentists, 2 other hygienists, the receptionist. I mean, she was covering everybody. The receptionist, the hygienist, like everybody's a narcissist in his office. What incentive do I have to continue to come here? Are they all going to attack me like vampires one day? Anyway, so I wanted to jump right in on that because I know that's one of your areas of expertise is identifying narcissism and defining it. So we'll jump right in with the definition. What is a narcissist?
Good question. And it has been super weaponized and super overused lately. When I first started work, it was at a battered women's shelter, and we didn't even talk about narcissists. We talked about the abusive person. So narcissism takes 9 characteristics. Okay. And if you have at least 5 of those, then you may have narcissistic traits. Okay. Now, in order to be a full-blown narcissistic personality, you have to have all those at least 5 traits in abundance, and it's really affecting your life socially, emotionally, mentally, and even occupationally. Yeah. So when we talk and then you go another level, which is that the person is very delusional. So delusional means that you give them evidence to the contrary and they continue to hold on to their beliefs. And we certainly see that in different places and different people.
Yes.
When all of that is like blaringly obvious and really extreme, that's a narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay.
But I really talk a lot about narcissistic traits because even at the lower end of that scale, if you're involved with someone with a lot of narcissistic traits, your life kind of stinks. And you have to understand what that's about and why that's different and how to navigate that with boundaries. Yeah. And that can be a partner, it can be an adult child, or it can be your parent, it can be a sibling, it can be anybody in your life, or a work partner. But somebody with narcissistic traits is another kettle of fish. And if you're not that way, if you tend to be really empathic and kind and caring and non-selfish, that stuff's weird. And oftentimes people don't read it right. And they don't respond correctly, and they assume that somebody wouldn't hold on to an untruth to that level. But someone with narcissistic traits, I feel like they could pass a lie detector test because as soon as they think it, they believe it, and they say it. And the more they say it, the more they believe it. So I honestly think they could fully pass lie detector tests. No problem.
That's scary. Downright scary. I'm thinking about, I know, the elephant in the room is the current president of the United States as we record this because he's been deemed a narcissist by so many. But throughout history, I believe there have been many others, like was Mussolini a narcissist? Was Hitler a narcissist? Was Stalin? Let me ask that question.
Well, it's kind of ironic because last night my husband and I watched Nuremberg, and the psychiatrist who goes in to talk to Hermann Goering and does all this work with all the different men who are on trial at Nuremberg.
Yeah.
Says they're all narcissists. And
wow.
so, yeah, absolutely. The fascinating thing is that somehow people elect them. we haven't learned not to elect them because we believe them when someone believes themselves so passionately.
Yes.
And when they keep saying the same thing over and over again, people who don't think that way tend to believe them. And that's dangerous.
There's an expression that I heard attributed to our current president, but I don't think I researched it. He didn't actually say it, but it might have been his lawyer, his first big lawyer, Cohen, I think his name was. But the expression is keep lying until people believe you.
Yeah.
And I believe that is the repetitive, over and over. And after a while, you start almost you become hypnotized by it. Or the power of suggestion, even. Maybe it's the power of suggestion. Well, let me flip the script a little bit. Have there been any positive leaders that have had narcissistic traits? Could that be? I mean, there's some of the narcissistic traits, let me rephrase. Sorry to interrupt. I wonder if any of these traits could actually be used in a positive way, if that makes sense. Like, say, a person with the power of positive thinking and they manifest joy and all that. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about that.
So that's where people get confused.
Okay.
A lot of people will say, well, narcissism is just high self-esteem. That's not the case at all. Narcissism is when you have actually kind of an empty sense of self, and you put on this mask of bravado and then portray it to the world and then project it to the world, and that you do a lot of gaslighting. And that's a really important piece of it. So are any of those qualities total selfishness, total inability to see things empathically, which means from another person's perspective, inability to honor other people's thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs. Those kinds of things are not positives. So we're not talking about somebody who has a high sense of self. When you have a good sense of self-esteem, you actually are humble, right? Yeah. So a person who feels good about themselves, they don't need to suck all the air out of the room. They just feel good about themselves. And if somebody else is talking, they're good with that. If the focus comes onto them, they're fine with that. And then if it shifts again, that's cool. Yeah. Somebody who has that internal emptiness, who has to be puffed up all the time. In one of my videos on YouTube, I equated it to a hot air balloon. So a hot air balloon has to be constantly puffed up or it implodes and then it explodes. And that's a perfect description of somebody with narcissistic traits. And they tend to need some other people to adore them, worship them, puff them up constantly. Yeah. And when they don't get that, then they go internally imploding and then they externally explode. And they do that in a variety of ways. Like the more covert narcissists might get really suicidal and really sad and really histrionic, whereas those bullying, tantruming narcissists, they explode and they're violent. And they are vengeful. When something doesn't go your way, a normal person just kind of is sad or rolls with it or figures it out, finds other resources, pivots, whatever. Yeah. Somebody with narcissistic traits is vengeful to the hilt, and they will engage other people to be vengeful with them. We call that engaging the flying monkeys. So they'll do it, they'll cyberbully, they'll bully people, they'll destroy people. They literally will destroy somebody who has done them wrong. So that's another indicator. So no, real narcissistic qualities are not positive,
Okay.
and it's not about having high self-esteem at all.
Thanks for clarifying that, because I did see someone write that, but I think it was a right winger that wrote that. You have to be a narcissist to be an effective leader.
Oh gosh, no, that's totally messed up.
I wanted to ask, so what are they feeling inside? Is that like there's an anger, like I didn't get, almost like a child, like we used to use the phrase "terrible twos." I don't know if it's used anymore. A child throwing a tantrum, like they're angry because they're frustrated, and so they're going to throw a tantrum because they didn't get to play with a certain toy, like an inner rage. That I'm just wondering what is driving, what are they feeling inside?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. And some people who are narcissistic come from a lack in childhood. Others come from abundance. So that's a weird thing. You know, a lot of people say, well, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but a lot of the people who have narcissistic qualities that I've noticed actually come from a home where they were just adored and worshipped, and there were no limits and no boundaries, and their poop doesn't stink, and everything that they do is glorified and put out there on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, and that there's literally no limits and boundaries. So it isn't necessarily because they have a lack or they're sad or hurt or upset. It can be because they honestly believe the world ought to revolve around them. And that's, that's a belief system that is very harmful to everybody and everything around them, because the world does not revolve around them. So anytime that becomes apparent, then they implode and explode.
Wow. I'm just thinking of somebody. I'm sorry, I keep gravitating back toward the leader, current leader, and I'm trying to leave the name out so it doesn't become that I'm looking to become a basher and get into political. What I wanted to say was I have a genetic predisposition, I will say. A neurologist told me I'm wired for anxiety and panic. And my 3 siblings had anxiety and panic. My mother was, and I have ADHD, and my mother had ADHD. And I believe her mother she passed away when she was young, but I heard about her and how she acted. Is this something, are these traits passed on in narcissism? I know they're passed on in anxiety and whatever, but yeah, okay.
So they are and they aren't. And there certainly seems to be a genetic component or passed along component.
Okay.
And the jury's out, basically. There's no definitive understanding of how that works. So yes, there does seem to be a genetic component. And a lot of people will say, this kid came out differently. They were always kind of selfish. They were always kind of all about themselves. And then another kid, this kid came out differently. They were always super empathic, and they always were, they wanted to give all their gifts for their birthday to the Humane Society or whatever, super empathic kid. So yes, they can have a genetic component. It can also be born of trauma, and it can also be born of overindulgence, like I said.
Okay.
And it can be all of the above. And then there's the other component, which is modeling. So this is huge. When I was working at the battered women's shelter, one of the most shocking things I ever saw was a 3 or 4 year old child, little tiny guy. And he went up to his mom, and she was making dinner. And he said, I want some ice cream. Normal kid thing to say. And she said, no, we're going to have dinner in about 5 minutes. And he said, effing B, and he punched her in the leg.
Wow.
Like, holy smokes. It lands early. So that modeling had landed already. And so he had learned you get what you want by punching and swearing. And that's what he was doing. So a lot of times people will find that they have just had that modeled for them. That was normal. That was regular to see that in their home. And so they act that way. And, you know, limits and boundaries. If she had not learned how to set limits and boundaries with him, of course, he would grow up to be an abusive person.
Wow. And it made me think about some things that you were saying. Well, I'll go with one first. One thought first was that my understanding is that a personality is set very young. Am I right? Like 2 years old, 2 years old?
Not that young, but a lot of those belief systems and personality traits are set by 5 or 6.
5 or 6, okay.
And yet they can still change. You know, one of my recent videos, I asked, is can a person with narcissistic traits change? And I said, yes, but. And that's a big but.
Yeah.
It means that you have to be willing to be brutally honest with yourself, brutally honest with others, absolutely holding yourself to task around your behaviors. Willing to take full ownership of the entitled anger that drives it, and how you decide and choose to act out in the future. So it's rare because people with narcissistic personality typically don't believe that anything is their fault. So if you can't take ownership of it being your fault, you can't change. But I have seen people take full ownership and say, I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to lose my partner, my kids, my whatever, my job, and make honest changes. And it can work, but it's a big but.
I know. I mean, for me, with my anxiety, panic, and ADHD, I've had to work. I'm 67, going to be 68 in a couple of weeks. I've had to work my whole life at it. It is hard. I've been in and out of therapy. I've tried different medications. I have on my desk here like one of these fidget spinner things.
Oh, cool.
My 33-year-old son gave me these because they know how I am. So sometimes you might hear rattling during our conversation. That's me flicking it. But the point is, and I've been an overeater and all that. The point is that, to your point, the work involved with getting a handle on these things, it would be much easier for me to continue overeating and to enjoy all that food and be 300 pounds. And it would be much easier for me to jump all over the place than it would be to work on these things. And I could, follow the advice of certain psychiatrists who said, take Xanax 4 times a day and keep increasing so that I'm, drugged. That would be easier. It's hard to work on oneself. So I can see why a privileged person would not want to go there. Like what? I'm a billionaire, for example. I have everything at my fingertips. I have buildings all over the place. I have ultimate power. Why should I change? Where's the incentive?
Yeah.
So,
and typically the people who struggle with these qualities, we call it, they just find new supply. So if you need that puffing up, or you need somebody to adore you and puff you up and all that stuff, and this person isn't working out anymore because they are onto you and they're sick of it and they don't want to puff you up anymore, and they've kind of realized that they're done being gaslit and they're done with this whole shenanigans. So as soon as that happens, typically they'll just pivot and find somebody else.
And it could be marriages too, right? It could be leaving a partner and
partners, marriages. It could be, but the glitch is if they don't want to lose their marriage, if they don't want to lose their relationship with their kids or their adult kids or their parents or whoever it is that they are currently pissing off, then that could motivate them to really take an honest look and really do the work. But yeah, you're right. If they can't take ownership and they can't see it as really motivational for them to change, then they won't. They just pivot.
Great points. And I'm talking with Shannon Petrovich, by the way. And we're both on Podmatch. And this is the Lens of Hopefulness show, in case you fast-forwarded and wondering what you're listening to. You mentioned videos a couple times. I want to bring this up. Let's see if my technology works. This is your channel.
That's right.
On YouTube. By the way, if you're on YouTube watching this, that is Shannon's channel on YouTube. Therapist Talks, and if you're listening, Therapist Talks Thrive Beyond Narcissism. And the handle is @Therapist Talk. So go check out, because I was just watching a bunch of videos with my wife before we came on, and we were both like, ooh, ah. You have a great way of speaking clearly and calmly to engage people. I give you credit for that. So, but I want to give you a chance to talk about, I'm actually being a narcissist, hogging the conversation. I want to give you a chance to talk about your channel. So tell us more about your YouTube channel.
Well, it came about, I guess, 8 years ago. I'm not exactly sure. I wanted to share, over the last 38 years, I've learned a lot. And I wanted to share it with more people, because there are billions of people in the world who will never have access to therapy. And a lot of what I know is really information, strategies that can be accessible to everybody. So I thought, I'm just going to share stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I started Therapist Talks. Then it began to be focused on, I've got this relationship with this person, and they're abusive and they're narcissistic. And so I started to sort of offer more content like that. And the more content I offered like that, the more people wanted. And did a bunch of live streaming and a bunch of different videos. And I've got about 200 videos now. And it really, really grew. And initially, I did not want to write a book in order to share. But then after about 5 years of doing that, I realized I can't really help people in these 10-minute videos or even an hour-long live stream the way I want to. So I need to capture it in a book. So then I wrote the book, Out of the Fog into the Clear, Journaling to Help You Heal from Toxic Relationships, because there are a lot of different types of toxic relationships. So I wanted to get more broad, and it's available on Amazon. It's not a textbook. It's very much a how-to. You can pick it up and dive right in, and it's not textbooky. I didn't want that. I wanted it to be accessible to the billions of people all over the world who need help and probably won't have access to therapy. You can use it in conjunction with a therapist or a self-help group or whatever you want. But it's also able to walk you through how you decipher what happened, how to clear out that fog, the fear, obligation, and guilt, and how to move forward in your life and rebuild your life. Because a lot of times when we involve ourselves in a toxic relationship, or we've gotten involved in other ways, even a parent or something that wasn't our choice, our thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs get buried so much, and we are gaslit so much that we lose ourselves entirely. Like we can be completely oblivious. I've had clients say, I don't even know what I think. I don't even know what I feel. I don't know what I want, and I don't know what I need. I'm like, yep, that's absolutely true, because your entire focus has been on keeping this person calm, happy, content, feeling good about themselves, all that stuff. And when you focus your entire being on another person, you lose yourself. So rebuilding all of that is another chore. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they'll get out of one relationship, and they go right back into another one. And that's not because they want that and are comfortable with that and all the other BS people say, which is horrible. It's not comfortable. It's not where you want to be, but it's familiar. And if you don't rebuild from the inside, then you're going to continue to allow relationships that are about that other person and not about you.
Okay.
When we show up fully with our own thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs on board, somebody who's very narcissistic doesn't really want any part of us. And so, but if we show up like the super empath and the super giving, loving, all about other people, man, we are a magnet for those kind of folks, right?
Yes. Agree. Been there. And I want to get back to the book. Great points. The book is, again, is on Amazon. You can see it if you're on YouTube and the picture. And I see that it's got a best-selling book badge. #1 in codependency, #1 in self-help for abuse, #1 in personal transformation. I just pulled that off, I think, your website earlier. So It's out of the fog into the clear, journaling to help you heal from toxic relationships. Go out to Amazon and grab that. There's something on there's 2 points as you were talking about gaslighting. I've been in a relationship for 46 years with my current wife, 43 married. So we grew up together. I started dating her when she was 18. I was 21. So, and we both came from families, God bless them, but both sides, my parents, her parents, children of Italian immigrants who came over on the boat, didn't speak English, and had to find their way. And my parents were high school dropouts, and then they got their GED, so it was like school of hard knocks. Well, we came from families where, I mean, it was interesting. They were loving people, but gaslighting, that was a big deal. Not only from our parents, but because I knew her parents very well over the years, and they're great people. They were great people. Mine were too. But they used that, and so did my siblings, and so did I in my relationship with my wife. I admit it. If you're listening, Luann, I'm sorry. She knows. But I used to do that with her, and I didn't realize it until I started psychotherapy. I would say things to her like, "Oh, you're crazy for thinking that way. Like, you are this and you're that." And I would plant that in her poor little head. We were both very young, but that's the way I grew up. It was always like this tagging people and stereotyping them and labeling them in that amateur fashion, in a hurtful fashion. It was done to me too, and it stuck with me. Sure. So back to the point again of working on it. A lot of work needs to be done. I want to jump over to, let's see if I got the right place. We showed your book. We showed your YouTube channel. I found this also. Oh, okay. This is from your website. These are your credentials. Tell us, for those who don't know, what LCSW, BCD is for your credentials.
So, licensed clinical social work. And that's the clinical license of a social worker. So I'm a therapist and have been for 38 years. BCD was an additional license. It means board certified diplomat in clinical social work. It was an additional thing that I did so that I could get reciprocity to other states. When I got it, my husband said, "Diplomat, does that mean we get the little flags on our car?" No.
I want to ask, thank you. Is your website, I want to get the right website for our listeners, nofroggydays.com? Did I get that right?
No, it's therapisttalks.com.
Therapisttalks.com. Let me see if I can find that.
I did have that in the past, but that I put to rest and put everything under therapisttalks.com.
Okay, so I grabbed an old website before. Okay, therapist, it's THERAPIST.
Another T.
Talk.
AL.
with an S on the end?
KS.
Talks.com.
Therapisttalks.com. Yep.
Oh, there it is. Okay, now I'm going to really explore technology and see if I could share the screen. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
So that's Shannon's website, everybody, for those watching, but for those for those listening, it's easy. Therapisttalks.com. I'll scroll a little bit. I see you have a link to your book. You do counseling and coaching, obviously. And I looked at the video. You have videos also. We talked about those. So
I did a video masterclass, which is similar to the book, but it walks you through in a different, sort of in a more in-depth way, and in ways that can be really helpful if you really like that genre. So those are all available. Counseling for people who are residing in states where I'm licensed. Coaching is really similar. I utilize, I utilize all of my skills and strategies, but coaching is appropriate when someone is not in your state of licensure.
I see. I think I recognize CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, correct?
Correct.
And what is EMDR?
EMDR is a trauma-informed trauma strategy. It's eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I know that's a handful. The woman who developed it said she wishes she had just called it reprocessing therapy. It's basically taking old trauma and reprocessing it by utilizing our natural tendency to do bilateral processing. It's very weird, but it sounds hokey, but I promise you it's really, really, really helpful. So when we're sleeping is when we process our day, all the stresses of our day, right? And we do that through our eye movement, rapid eye movement, REM sleep.
Yeah.
So the theory is that we are taking information and stress and whatever from our logical to our emotional, to our logical to our emotional, and then we put it away. When things are overwhelming, traumatic, they don't get processed. And that's, if you have things that are on a trigger, like if I think about A, B, or C, I'm immediately just as upset as I was when that happened.
Yeah.
That means it hasn't ever processed. So we don't want to walk around with all those trigger points inside our brain and our body.
Right.
It's literally in our entire being. So we want to process those things, and that's a strategy that I use for that.
Great. I haven't heard that one. And one more acronym, DBT, I see. DBT.
So DBT is similar to CBT. DBT stands for Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, which is, again, a ton of syllables. But and a lot of people call it diabolical, but it's really not. It's kind of adding in some other strategies to the cognitive behavioral therapy. And some of those are really, really important, like grounding skills and self-calming skills. And I always teach that because when we've lived in trauma, our emotional and survival systems are on fire and they're on trigger points. And we don't want to live that way. So we have to learn how to self-calm, how to notice when those things are on fire. And what's true too is that when those things are on fire and we're in that fight, flight, freeze mode, we don't have access to our logical mind. And so part of healing and getting free from toxic relationships requires us to calm down that emotional and survival mind and be able to access our logical mind, make good logical decisions like, I think I love this person, but they do this, they do that, I don't trust them, they're gaslighting me, I feel hurt and I feel upset and I feel stressed. I don't love a person who has those qualities and does that to my life. You can't. That's not love. It's attachment.
Wow.
But it's not love. And so having your logical mind on board, calming down that emotional mind that thinks you're in love, logically saying, I don't love this person, because that's not love, that's attachment. Then you can make a good decision. I'm getting out. I'm done. And you can pull the trigger on that and calm down the emotional mind. So those strategies, the DBT strategies, are really critical.
So critical, especially today. Well, everybody has been saying that, especially today, for many years. But I think, and I was thinking about marriage and how difficult it is to retain a marriage, a long-term marriage. There's so many divorces, and I feel. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I have a wife that is, very level-headed and was able to weather my storms. But I'm thinking, if a person, and what I'm getting to is, if a person tries to do it on their own and make these calls, I mean, I know we have the capability to do so, but would you agree with me when I say it's always good to have a professional weigh in on your judgment of a situation before pulling a trigger? I mean, where you're jumping to...
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
It's absolutely ideal to have a counselor, coach, a therapist, somebody that you can bounce things off of. And even in my book and in my work, I really encourage people to process these things with whoever they have access to. And that's really, really important, because a lot of times we have been cut off from other people when we are involved in a toxic relationship. That toxic person will isolate you. So they don't want you to be touching base with your friends or your family.
Wow.
So they will spin things and say, well, your family doesn't deserve you. You're too good to them. Or they take advantage of you, and you need to not spend so much time with them. Or they will sort of microaggression you. So, apparently I care more about you than you do about me, because you want to go spend time with your friends, and I don't need that. I need you, blah, blah, blah. So all of that stuff isolates you and separates you from your people. So when you are questioning this, I encourage, one of the first projects I encourage you to journal is all the different things that have really happened in this relationship, and make a huge long list of all of it. And then process it with somebody, a friend or a therapist or whoever, and say, these things are what happened. Yeah. And then that person can help you make a logical decision, and then calm down that emotional mind, because it's going to go crazy and say, no, you can't stop. You love this person, don't leave. But checking that out is really, really critical. And then I also, and I guess I'm unusual in this, because a lot of people who seek me out for counseling and coaching say everybody on YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else is like, cut them off. Yes. If they're toxic, cut them off. Like the woman you were talking about to begin with, she had to leave that workplace because everybody was toxic. Everybody was a narcissist. So I believe very strongly that we need to do the inside work. I mean, if there's violence, get out,
sure,
cut them off. But if it's just like this toxic relationship, we need to do the inside work, rebuild our sense of self, rebuild our relationship with ourselves, and then learn to set boundaries with others, and then see what happens. Like, hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me. I'm going to leave, or I'm going to hang up now. If we can talk about this more calmly later, cool.
Yeah.
And then see what happens. If a person comes around and starts to let you show up fully, awesome. If they don't, cool. So boundaries work either way. It gives you the information you need to get out or to dig down and do the work with that person.
Thank you. Good points across the board. I am thinking of a story I am from a generation where generally couples stay together longer. I'm talking about my parents' generation. And I was just thinking that I had one aunt that said, she's passed on now, and my uncle's passed on now too. So I think it's safe, and I don't think my cousins are going to listen to this. So, and they probably wouldn't know which one I'm talking about. But I remember talking to my aunt and saying, after her husband passed away, they were married 60 years, she said, I miss him so much every minute of the day. This is just a couple of weeks after he passed away. I said, oh, wow, that's right. You had 60 years, such a long marriage. Oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, well, my marriage was awful. She said, I don't mean to laugh now. This was many years ago. But she just said, I had no choice. I had to stay in it. He worked and I was the mother, and there was no choice. So what I'm thinking about is that, and I remember him always leaving. When we would visit, like on a Sunday, back then there were Sunday visits, he would say, I'm going out. And he would leave. And I remember my aunt watching him go out the door and then going back to the conversation and not saying a word. She couldn't say, where are you going? And she wouldn't dare. So I'm thinking that's probably why there are so many breakups today, because women aren't taking it. They're just not taking it. And they are just making these discoveries. I mean, I would like to think that I'm hoping that there would be a way to cut down on the number of breakups by, like I was saying before, getting the professional insights. Because you go on TV, you watch TV shows and movies, they're like, that's it, you're gone. And like you said, social media, cut them off, cut them off, cut them off. I'd have nobody left in my life if I cut everybody off that I felt wronged me, without giving it some extra thought and processing. So anyway, great points. Yeah. And
therein lies the learning how to set boundaries. And if you tend to show up as a placater, a peacekeeper, sort of doing that, always all about the other person, if that's how you show up in relationships, you have to do it differently. Okay. And when you do it differently, then the other person gets to respond how they want to respond. Now, if they escalate and get really mad that you're showing up fully and that you have an opinion and that you have wants and needs and thoughts and feelings, then peace out, you're done. Yeah. But if you show up differently, a lot of times I've seen relationships that I thought were dead on arrival have transformed amazingly, because that person goes, well, cool. Yeah, absolutely. You have a right to your thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs. Mm-hmm. I'm all about that. I'm sorry I've been a douchebag for the last whatever years. Yeah. And I am willing to put in the work so that we can save this marriage. Awesome. So we do need to learn to show up differently. We do need to learn where we are showing up as placaters and peacekeepers so that we can do it differently and see what happens. And I believe that there are a lot of marriages and relationships and parent-child relationships and even work relationships where we can do it differently. We can set boundaries. We can say, I'm not going to live with this anymore. This behavior has to stop. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to be bullied anymore. And I'm not going to be spoken to that way anymore. And then you see what happens. And a lot of times people will make those changes because they are motivated to keep that relationship.
Great advice. This was a free therapy session to all my listeners and to me. And Shannon, thanks so much for joining. I'm going to just review real quick. The book, folks, is Out of the Fog into the Clear. That's on Amazon. So grab that. Do I have the correct name? Yes. therapisttalks.com, and you could access that very easily, folks. And one more time, at Therapist Talks is the handle, and it's Therapist Talks Thrive Beyond Narcissism. My guest, Shannon Petrovich. So good to talk to you. This was such a nice conversation. I enjoy it. It's right up my alley. I could talk about this for hours.
Awesome. It's been great talking with you too, John.
Thanks so much. And folks, lastly, those listening and watching, you can find us both on Podmatch. If you are a podcaster looking for a great guest, as you just heard, you can talk to Shannon. I'm sure there's so many different perspectives. We didn't talk about codependency. We talked a little bit about attachment. There's so many different subjects to talk about. And I am a host on Podmatch. And if you're somebody that wants to be a guest, my guest, hit us up on Podmatch. Lens of Hopefulness also on Substack and all the major platforms. So spread the word to friends and family, like and subscribe and all that other stuff. Thank you again, Shannon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, John.
This has been Lens of Hopefulness with John Pasadena.
Streaming on all platforms.
Spread the word.